Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nedling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Nedling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to grow your business and take it to the next level. This is the Podapalooza version of the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. We always love to do this a few times a year. And my guest today is Yvonne McCoy. And so, Yvonne, I always start with a very easy question, which is, where do you come from? Where do you call home?
I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm between, if you're in the bigger world, I'm between New York and Washington.
So I don't think you know this about me, but I am a Pittsburgh girl. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, and I had an uncle that lived in Drexel Hill, PA, just outside of Philadelphia.
Well, I grew up closer to Drexel Hill, and a suburban girl.
The whole Kevin Bacon thing happens all the time. I think it's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you weren't always, you didn't come out of the womb as an entrepreneur, right? There was something that you did before this. So take us back a little ways. And what did you do prior to becoming an entrepreneur? And what was that thing that said, you know what? I want to be my own business person.
I think I have to say that I come from a family of entrepreneurs. They were entrepreneurs, and then they were like, we have to have a job. We need steady income, because they were entrepreneurs during the Great Depression and stuff like that. So there was a big push to have a good paying job. And so that was my focus my entire life, is to go to school, graduate, get a good job, which I didn't actually do. I was a hippie, and I ended up running a food co-op. And then I ended up finding out that I was actually good at business. Nobody ever said to me, I was good at math and I was good at school, so I got good grades, but nobody ever said you should go into business. So after the co-op went belly up, because we did the survey ass backwards, I went and ended up getting my master's, my MBA. And again, I wasn't, it was just like, I think I'll get a degree in business. And through some quirky things, ended up getting a really good MBA from Wharton.
Wow.
And talk about limiting beliefs, which is a big problem that entrepreneurs have. I realized that I haven't used my credentials or told people about my credentials in ages.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I'm actually saying that, and got out and got a corporate job where I actually was like, stood out like a sore thumb. I mean, I just did not fit into that. And then said, all right, after that was over, I think I will maybe do my own business, and ended up getting in. I actually worked for H&R Block for 15 years. I did taxes. I ran a division. We did, $1.5 million plus business. I had 12 locations, 300 employees. And so one of the things that I learned from that is, how do you do accelerated learning? Because we had a seasonal staff. And so it became really important, like, how do you read people? How do you hire fast? How do you get them up to speed? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And after I almost had a nervous breakdown from doing that, and trying to raise my kids and work, it was like being an entrepreneur with a paycheck.
Yeah.
You work, it gave you the freedom to work as many hours as you could put in, is what it amounted to.
Right.
I was like, okay, what is it that I really want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the first time that, dead reckoning, which is what's in my course. Dead reckoning is a sailing term. And because you can't go in a straight line when you're sailing, because of the currents and the wind, you have to have a long-term kind of goal. Like, where do I want to go and how do I correct to get there? was the first time that I actually, I think, used that without knowing it. And I was like, I want to help adults learn to read.
Yeah.
I've got the time to do this. I think that these are amazing people with amazing, that want to do something with their life. The problem was I was horrible at it. I couldn't read as a kid. I really, I was in second grade and I couldn't read, and a teacher saved my life. And I think I was dealing with my own emotional, stuff, teaching other
Yeah.
people. I couldn't do it. I taught them math. I taught them critical thinking. I taught them all kinds of things that people thought was really strange. But what I did start doing for them is I was a coordinator for workforce.
Mm.
And I got really good at that because it turns out that most people that are in workforce were originally teachers, typically in elementary school for some weird reason. And so teaching an adult is very different than teaching a child.
Yes.
And so they had this chunk of people that had educational background that couldn't relate to the business people, and a chunk of people who were retired business people that had no teaching skills. And for some weird reason, I could do both, and I was really good at it. I was really good at the problem solving. And, my brothers and sisters always said, you fix everything. That's your mission in life, is that you can fix it and get it done, and get it done fast. And so I did that for a long time, had a lot of fun doing it. And then when we split ways, I was like, I could probably do something like this on my own. So I did a lot of coaching in organizations. I did executive coaching, team building, that kind of stuff. But when COVID hit, I said, this makes me feel old. In March 2020, I woke up in the hospital. I was in the hospital for 5 days, not because of COVID, and I lost all my clients because they were all nonprofits and didn't have any money, right?
Right.
And so that's what, I've always been doing kind of even when I had a job, entrepreneurial kinds of things. But I think that was when I really had to start all over again. Take everything that I have and start all over again. And dead reckoning became really, really important partially because I'm older, and it's like, if I want to make an impact on the world, I better get to it.
Yeah.
And also because I think it helps you to make better decisions faster. It helps you to get rid of the clutter. And you can say, all right, this is interesting, but I'm going to put that on hold. And the great thing about, being in an informational society is you put it on hold, but if you have a website link, when you go back, it's updated. So it's changing and growing without you doing anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the long version of a short story.
I think that's great. And so you talked just a minute ago about where you kind of were going, and I wrote down core values, and how is that tied to your vision of where you want to be in your business today, and how important, as you choose your clients to work with, knowing that you want to make it count because of knowing that you want to leave a legacy. So how do you manage that tie-in of vision, core values, and clients?
I think the thing that's really important is I think core values are important not only with your clients, but the team that you put around you, right? Because you can train people to learn new things. Typically, you don't change their values.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's really important. This is how we do this. How do you, what do you think about this? And I think one of the ways to do that is when you're talking with your clients is to kind of get a sense of what their values are. What is it that's important to them, and how they make decisions, that kind of stuff. How do they talk to their clients? And how do they talk to their employees, right? Because my feeling is that every relationship that you have should leave that person better.
Yeah,
they should be better
true.
for knowing you. And that there have been times in my life when that's been really hard, because it's like, I'm not getting along with you. I just am not going to talk to you anymore. And I had to get to a point where I said, what's in me that's making that happen? That I had to have some responsibility for that, and at least try to work through it before I, I mean, because there are some relationships you don't want.
Right, that you need
Yeah.
to walk away from.
Right. But I think one of the things that is really amazing is I took a course on positive intelligence,
Mm,
and it was really enlightening because he talks about how our limiting beliefs make us kind of go down, be in a rut,
yeah,
right? And that at some point, if you can stop yourself and say, what is the opportunity here? What is the gift? Then it'll get you to look at it in a different way. And if you then say, what is the opportunity that's going to get me to my legacy? What is the gift that's going to help me to, you know, it is an amazing thing. I mean, I actually had it in a business relationship where there was somebody that was like, this person is right. And I was like, okay, let me take a look at this and realize that the reason he was, seemed like he was so off kilter to me was that as, as the group, we hadn't decided what it was that we were trying to do.
right.
Right. And this person had an incredible amount of technology experience. If we could figure out where we were going, he would get us there faster. It's like, oh, so that's what's going on.
And you made a really good point. In your background, you showed that you're a women business strategist, and you made a point about the people that you bring in. And I think oftentimes people hire for a body or a skill and don't remember that you can teach them a skill.
Mm-hmm.
And just because they're breathing doesn't mean that they're aligned with your values, your mission, your core. And you can't change their behavior or their attitude very easily.
That's true. That's very true.
And so talk about how important it is in that interview, as well as say you weren't the person that interviewed them. Now you're the manager that's stuck with them. How important it is that you decide, should they stay or should they go?
Well, I think the first part to this is, I think so many times people are not hiring for the right role, right? They're saying, I need a body, but they're not saying that they need a body that for the particular role. And that is probably one of the first challenges that all entrepreneurs have, is that you're working by yourself, and then maybe family and friends are helping you, but they're not really the right people.
Yeah.
And so you have no policies, you have no standard operating procedures to be able to see if they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big thing, is that you see yourself, you have to move from that mindset of being just a practitioner to being a business owner, right? And put some systems in place. But if in fact somebody's put somebody on you, right, that's the body, one of the things I teach is, I call it the 3 Ps. And it's because we always want to go to what's wrong with me or what's wrong with them. That's our first, So the first P is procedural. What are the procedures? Do we have procedures in place? Are they the right ones? Do they need to be changed? Was this person trained on them? Right? If all of that is okay, then the next thing is the person. Did we actually train the person to do what I'm asking them to do? Do they understand it? Do they need more training? If it's not a training issue, is it a resource issue? Did you give them everything that they need? And the really simple version of this is, you didn't make the copies I told you to make because we ran out of paper, and we don't have a procedure about when we should order paper so that this doesn't happen. So now we need another procedure. And then at some point, you've got the person has the ability to do it, you've trained them, and they just don't want to do it. At which point, if depending on the laws in your state and stuff, you've given them a verbal warning, a written warning, that kind of stuff, that you've taken them through the process, and they just are not going to do it, then that's the time that you need to let them go. Because one of the things that people don't think about is the negative impact that they're having on other people.
Yeah.
That you have. And it can be, I mean, I had an organization that would not fire this woman, and she just sabotaged. And when they finally fired her, she was like, thank God, I was wondering how long it would take you to do it. And I could collect unemployment. I mean, I think that, you know, and part of the training part is to let people know, if you can't do this, you know, and we put everything into it, then we have to have a parting of the ways. So it's not a surprise. I mean, I have to say, firing people is like the worst thing. You know, you don't like to do it. And the first manager job I had to fire a lot of people, and I was put into a really weird situation where people were stealing and I couldn't prove it. It happened before I got there. And so I had to kind of fire them on a technicality. And the thing that amazed me was, to the man, none of them said, you know, I didn't do it or something like that. They said, who told you? So, you know.
Wow. So we're running out of time. This has been a very great conversation we've had here. What would be 2 tips that you would give the audience that should be something that they consider every day to help them really be able to grow their business?
I think that I would start the day with the question, what can I do today that's going to grow my business and grow my legacy? And the other thing is, I think it's really important that you look at your business as an experiment, that you're trying something, and there are going to be times when you fail. But if you learn from that, then you are going to succeed and make progress. If you are not failing, you are not doing anything new, you're not growing.
Right.
And that was a hard lesson for me to learn.
Yeah. Because we get in that comfort level and we think, well, if the boat's not rocking, we don't need to worry about it.
Yes. But here's the thing. If you're not growing and you think you're just maintaining, you're actually falling behind, because the world is changing around you.
Very true. Very true. You always have to. I did an analogy just recently. I visited the St. Augustine area, and they have a lighthouse. And I used the lighthouse as an analogy for how your business should be. So as you go up the spiral, there's windows, and you can look out and you have a perspective. And you know what you see and what you feel and what you hear. And then you go up a little further and the perspective changes. You're still the same person. Your business is the same, but now you have to look at it a little differently. And then as you get all the way to the top, you get a different perspective and different idea and that feeling of success, but you have to come all the way back down and start over.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you, you never start over, you're continuing on. So you may be at the bottom, but you've gotten something out of doing that journey. And so you're a different person than when you started up those stairs.
Yeah. And it's really not starting over, but it's adding that out of the comfort zone. It's like, oh, well, I learned something from the top, so now I know.
Yeah, I can see what's out there.
Yeah. Well, it's been wonderful having time with you today, Yvonne. And as always, I end with life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride.
And I'll share mine. I just discovered this from something I was going through that I wrote. Life is a journey, learn to navigate.
Ah, so good. That's why we have GPS.
Yeah.
This is Vicki Nettling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nettling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.